This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. Between two-factor authentication, strong passwords, and a VPN, you try to be in control of how your info is protected. But many other places also have it, and they might not be as careful. That's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats. If your identity is stolen, they'll fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for 40% off. Terms apply. This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
The Judge Janine Pirro, Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday Morning Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, everybody. Let's bring in our first big guest. This is, of course, David Webb. You can listen to him daily on Sirius XM Patriot 125, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Also, you can see him all over the place on Fox News, Fox Business, Fox Nation. We got a lot of Foxes. David, how are you?
I'm doing well, Joe, and always good to be talking to you.
Absolutely. David and I will be co-hosting the big weekend show on Fox News tonight. New time tonight, 5 p.m. Eastern. We start our 2-hour show until 7. Alicia Acuna, Nicole Parker co-hosting for the first time. Nicole, of course, is ex-FBI, so good to have her on tonight, obviously, to talk about Charlie Kirk and that continuing investigation as the web appears to be getting bigger. So 5 to 7 p.m. Eastern tonight on Fox News. Do tune in. So, Charlie, it's been a horrible week. You know, I was at a gala last night at Trump National in Bedminster. The president was there. He was in a different part of the complex, we'll put it that way, but did come down and spoke to the crowd for about 10 minutes. And, you know, the only topic really was Charlie, and that horrible assassination, that execution that we saw at Utah Valley University. You know, your first initial thoughts when you heard the news or saw the news, and from here, as far as like the blame game is concerned, it looks like the left is losing the narrative again as far as who this shooter was and what his ideology was. Not that it matters completely, because that doesn't get us Charlie back, but I'm just going to give you the floor because I'm sure you have a lot to say about this.
I mean, my initial reaction, like a lot of other people, you know, the shock. And I'll separate the shock of the event and the assassination from the surprise. Joe, we've known each other a long time, and I've said this, I'm consistent on this. I am not surprised by the radical actions of the left. It's obvious and even more clear when you look at the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination versus the death of George Floyd, that cities aren't burning, that people haven't taken to the streets to cause damage and harm to others. But right now, the follow-through of this is also something else, which I think most people in your audience would recognize. If you think back to what Andrew Breitbart and his days, and Andrew and I and others who worked to build out the Breitbart news operation and more as it is, Andrew, with his untimely passing, left an organization that can survive him, and does, and thrives today with a radio show and a news outlet and much more. Charlie Kirk did something very similar. His assassination does not end Turning Point USA, and as a matter of fact, the president said, and it's sad that we have to look at it this way, but it's reality, that this platform will become even bigger and Charlie will become a bigger voice as the left have martyred him with an assassination.
Yeah. You're so right about that, because we remember Martin Luther King, and I wasn't alive for that, but, you know, I've studied it and read about it enough as far as his movement and his assassination and how he only became bigger in death. And the same thing with John F. Kennedy. This is basically the first political assassination, I think, since that time of that horrible stretch of JFK to MLK to RFK. But you're so right about as far as the rhetoric that we see in the left. I mean, look, Blue Sky, which is like the liberal, I can't even, like, X I think is pretty neutral, quite frankly, but it's a loony bin over on this social media site, and the giddiness, people posting videos, happy that two kids, 3 and 1 years old and a 31-year-old wife just lost their husband. I just can't fathom that we live in a country like that. And I remember, 2001, and I was in New York that day at during 9/11. I was in Midtown, so I could see everything from afar, but it was still just as horrifying as one can imagine, just seeing those towers coming down. But I remember then weeks later, George W. Bush, the president at the time, he's at Yankee Stadium, right? Which is, as deep blue as it gets. Right now, that's AOC, Mamdani country. And he walks up to the mound, goes up to the rubber, because Derek Jeter said, don't throw from the front of the mound. They'll think you're a wimp, and don't bounce it up there or they'll boo you. Bush took the advice, and despite wearing a bulletproof vest and a jacket over it, throws a perfect strike, and the roar from the crowd and the chants of USA. And we came together completely as a country. I mean, and now it's like I don't want to say it's 50-50, but it's probably 70-30, where there's like 30% of people in this country who are sick. And it includes, I'll play for you this clip because this really floored me. This is Katie Tur, who's supposed to be an anchor on MSNBC after Charlie was shot, but before he was pronounced dead. So in that time where, you didn't know what was happening, this is the conclusion that she came to as far as what this means. This is cut 13, guys. Go.
Charlie Kirk is a divisive figure, polarizing, lightning rod, whatever term you want to use. You can imagine the administration using this as a justification for something.
That's where she went, David. Like, boy, what's Trump going to do to exploit this? I mean, this person, just like Matthew Dowd over that network, should not have a microphone anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not all for cancel culture or anything, but if you're a journalist and you go there after somebody was shot, I don't think you should be anchoring any sort of news coverage.
Yeah, and that's something that MSNBC has to look at, not only from the, call it a violation of public trust, but from a broadcast perspective. They are constantly bleeding audience. Their audience has evaporated. You and I will co-host a show tonight that has quadrupled their number in that time slot on some weekends, tripling CNN and others, so no one even comes close. But why is that? It's because Americans, regardless of political ideology, except for those extremists, want something in the form of a way of measure. But again, we should not be surprised, and I'm with you. I don't want the power, nor will I ever have the power or demand the power to shut anyone up. But I want the Kathy Turs and the Matthew Dowds and the others, the Ilhan Omars and more, to speak out. I want people to see them for what they are. And for those of you who don't watch overseas media, I can tell you that if you turn to Sky News or BBC, you see what's going on in the UK, in other areas around Europe. You see that Charlie's influence was worldwide because he did something the left feared. He engaged rather than demonized. And he brought people to a discussion, not a final decision by him. And that's why the left hated him. In many ways, they hated him, but that's an effective communicator, someone who asks people to think for themselves, is a threat to the left who need power and control and lockstep behavior.
He is David Webb. You got to listen to him and hear more great analysis and perspective, measured analysis like that. Sirius XM Patriot 125, and obviously on the Fox News channel with me tonight at 5 p.m. on the Big Weekend Show. David, so sorry. The music means we got to go, but I will see you later, my friend, and thanks again for joining us on this Sunday morning. That was David Webb, everybody. And we'll be back with the Joe Concha Tunnel 4 Towers, Foundation Show, Sunday morning show. And we're going to have the great John Solomon. Stick around.
The Judge Jeanine Pirro Tunnel to Towers Foundation Sunday morning show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.